Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us on Influencers. It's a pleasure to have you.
Lovely being here.
You know, Ronnie, you sold your business for $1.4 billion and then started 4 or 5 businesses within the last 4 to 5 years. We're focusing on education at the moment. You've even written a book.
I was looking at rolling up my sleeve and saying, for the next 10 years, what do I want to do? And what would I do which is 10x of an impact of what I did in media and entertainment? So I had these 2 criteria, with a 10-year view and a 10x view. And I looked at FMCG, and I looked at packaged goods, and I looked at many other sectors, and then really education came about. And actually, again, that was serendipitous. Education was something that I found was similar to what I want to do, specifically in the online space. Because my background in 15 years of media, I understood content, I understood consumers, I understood scale, I understood brand, I understood building credibility, and I thought all of that were really the key factors that will make something successful in education. So I think that's how UpGrad happened.
Why are you focusing on higher education and sort of equipping older kids and older individuals with a skill set to enter the job market?
As soon as we realized that segment, it was very clear that today about 125 million people at any given time in India need to be in higher education, but only 25 million people are.
Yeah.
And the bulk of that balance, 100 million people, is not because they can't afford it or they don't have access to it, which also is a problem because faculty and real estate is an issue. But they need to start earning and being in a job at a very early stage in the career. So once you get into that job, into your career, you can't really leave it, you can't upgrade yourself, so you're stuck in a rut. People who will come in with post-graduation will come above you. So what do we do with that entire 100 million mass, which is a rolling 100 million mass? Therefore, online was absolutely critical, which means that firstly, we believe that education is an ongoing learning process. Now, it's not one of those things where at 22 you're done with learning. That era has gone for everybody. And I think the second one is, without quitting a job, how do I upgrade myself? And actually, therefore, online is really an answer. For a country like India, like it is for Brazil or China, it's incredible because for that population, which socio-economic reasons why you have to stay in a job, this is about the best answer and recommendation. The first challenge for us was how to make online not anonymous. And the second one is to have that learning experience. So we have student counselors and mentors, 1 per every 100 of our students, that actually engage with them on a weekly basis, tell them this is the course, this is what we're doing, down to talking to their spouses as needed, saying, hey, they didn't log on this week, etc. So that's worked for us big time. So the learning experience, the content and the pedagogy experience and the technology put together, I think we feel very excited about the opportunity.
And today, if I wanted to get a job in the corporate world, and if I had done an online course on UpGrad, which is your online portal, would people recognize this? Would they accept this?
I think for us, the simple answer is that because we've done our university tie-ups, they also acknowledge and understand that you can get respect and regard because it's a IIIT Bangalore come UpGrad course at 11 months. So yes, there's slow but starting to be acceptability. And I think the second part what we're doing is we're going to the corporates to actually take care of their learning needs, which also needs to be online. Because corporate India is spending about $2.5 billion of hiring people, then sending them offline to learn, paying their salaries in the interim period.
Yeah.
Okay, and that entire ecosystem, and at the end of 1 year, you have a 40% attrition on the people that you trained. So that has to break too, which we're doing a lot of concept selling. And again, as I said, from my learning days in media, the naysayers for everything that we did when we were pioneering is high. So I think patience is where it's at.
Your online courses specialize in digital marketing, entrepreneurship. How do you teach someone to be an entrepreneur?
You know, entrepreneurship can be taught. I think the question if everyone feels that I need to be a born entrepreneur is a myth. Okay, I mean, I come from a background which is a very low middle class background. My father was a professional, my brother was a professional, and he did his PhD in deep learning, and I was just a BCom pass. But then you went by your intuition. But that's the temperament of entrepreneurship. But there's the entire element of basic stuff like idea validation. Most people think that, wow, I've got a great idea. And the first start being eureka moment happens right then. You feel your great idea has to be the best idea in the world without really understanding what it means to validate that idea. So I think the 3-month course we have there is core on idea validation and taking you through the basics to basically say that out of the 40 mistakes that you're bound to make, at least 20 you'll make less of them if you go through this course. And I think that's what really the entrepreneurship course is about, along with what we consider to be careers of tomorrow, which is everything to do with data and everything to do with digital.
So the bulk of the demand is still in the conventional career sector, like the engineers, the management, the doctors. So do you see a shift in urban India now towards other types of careers?
I see that shift actually even happening in rural India. We work with 1 lakh kids in Swadesh, and I can tell you that the first thing when we injected there was career counseling. From the 8th, 9th and 10th standard, for the first time somebody is asking them, what do you want to do when you grow up? And between the first year in which we asked them, where everyone said nurse, fireman, policeman, something, to the second year when we asked them, the graph goes to 12 options. And by the 3rd year of us doing career counseling, it's gone to 35 options. So yes, I would say that most people got into a job because they needed to be an undergrad and just start working because either they have to take care of their family or the sister or the brother or XYZ. So for them to pause and have these career options is really where everyone is looking to diversify.
And you've got 8,000 students?
Well, yeah. And I think the idea is obviously, yes, the base as of March of 2018, yes.
What kind of growth do you hope to achieve in the next 2 to 3 years?
No, I think over the next 5 years, we should have 1 million students. And that's the beauty about online also, the scalability. But I don't mean that it's mass. But like, for example, there's no academic year now in online education, right? Everywhere else, you'd say July, August is your academic year start. Here we have, you can learn data science in February, but you can also learn data science in March and April and May. In the next 5 years, we should have 1 million students that we would like to work with the careers of tomorrow. And therefore the sectors that we're doing that. And this will include the degrees because that's opened up a whole new floodgate of opportunities.
So there have been huge sort of sell-offs and valuations in the online business in the last year itself of these young startups. Do you see that potential in your business as well?
No, I think, unlike everyone thinking that I exited the media business and therefore that's what I would look for the exit sign every time, that's really not the case. Because if you look at that, I think amongst the people who've been in and out of media, we were there for 20 years. So I think we were one of the long hauls of media. And this is education is the next 10 to 15 year business. So at this point, if one was looking at that, I would have gone on to raise funds on day one. For the first 3 years, we put in pretty much our own money.
What do you see as the main challenge facing your business?
No, I think it's a question of we're concept selling, acceptability, completion, and acceptability of the corporate world.
That's right.
So basically, acceptability of the students, acceptability of the parents who may not be, they're working professionals, so it's not like the parents are normally paying for their fees. But they're accepting because they're feeling, what are you doing sitting at home in your bedroom and thinking you're going to get a degree on? And then, of course, the most important one is the acceptability of the corporates.
The fear is that there's a huge amount of labor coming into the workforce, but there are no jobs. How are we going to address this? And your UpGrad, is it one way of dealing with this? Because you're equipping people for alternative careers, or as you say, the careers of tomorrow.
Yeah, so I think I just have two answers for that. Yes, I think what we're outlining is careers of tomorrow because everything will be from the subset of data and from the subset of digital. And then there's actually, it's like an octopus, you can go into any areas and zones. So it's between these two subsets. That's what we are. And I think the second one for the 200 million jobs that need to be created in sectors and industries that are actually growing because banking and finance is degrowing. Telecom is degrowing. I mean, degrowing as in not hiring people. IT is the ditto. So that's part of upgrading yourself, and that's one. And I think the second one is actually entrepreneurship. I think I'm a strong evangelist of first-generation entrepreneurs in this country. The problem is, most of us, when we look at entrepreneurship, we look at the family-run businesses, and most of the people we epitomize right now, people who were born to the manor and then have taken their business to the next level, which is respectful and fantastic. But we haven't been a generation of first-generation entrepreneurs. And coming as one, I think I know the struggles that one would go to. And we have a stigma for failure in this country, a huge stigma for failure. Okay, because if you can fail, I think, that pretty much people don't move on that. But I think the answer would be that we'll need a lot more people to turn entrepreneurs. And I don't mean entrepreneur as becoming a professional on your own. Because for most people, our entrepreneurship was, Look at the number of people who have a kirana store and nobody people who have that one or two things where you have a shop or whatever else. So it's going to be much more where every entrepreneur is going to be able to create 100 jobs, if not the 1,000 and the 5,000 and 10,000 jobs. And that's going to be the solution, because if we don't also have an entrepreneur, first generation entrepreneur ecosystem in this country, I don't think anything that we're going to do is going to be able to stop the challenge that we have.
Right from interns to higher level skilled workforce, there's a real drop in sort of work ethic and approach to work. How do you address something like that?
I found aspiration levels is really low, and that actually does worry me. Again, to give out an example, in rural India, we're finding that if you train 10,000 people for skill development, at the end of 9 months, only 5,000 of them are staying back in jobs. The other 5,000, after spending so much money and time on them, are coming back to the villages. Ditto here. So I think ambition and aspiration levels is something to worry about in this country. I don't have a solution for that, but I know that it's a tag that would create a problem as you go forward.
So Ronnie, you're now 61 years old. You know, most people after they've earned $1.4 billion might just relax and say, I'm going to enjoy my money, I'm going to travel, I'm going to live a great life, I'm going to buy a mansion. You've done none of these things. You've actually started 4 or 5 businesses in the last 5 years alone. So what drives you? What motivates you to keep pushing like this?
You know, I would say for most people asking that question that it's a myth. Point me 20 first generation entrepreneurs who actually sat on a beach for more than 15 days after they've exited their businesses, and you won't find them. Because that's the DNA of entrepreneurship. That's the DNA. If you've come and you've been on a treadmill and you've had more failures than successes, and hopefully at the end you've managed to succeed more than fail, there's a treadmill that goes there that I don't think is. And I think, you know, it's a pretty young age that everyone feels today. I think 60 is the new 40, right, in many aspects.
I'm 40, by the way.
So I feel that way completely.
So I'm the new 20 then.
I feel that way completely. And I think, yes, there was a period during those 2 years where I felt, I'll do some private equity investment, which is not so onerous, and then we have our not-for-profit, and wow, I'm set. But no, I think the DNA of the adrenaline of the first 20 years doesn't let you do that.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ronnie. It's great to have you on the show.
Not at all.